welcome back here to the American Kickoff. We are down in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City, and I'm here with somebody that maybe I've talked to a couple times, Brian Newberry, the head coach of the Navy Midshipmen. And Coach, it's always a good time to speak with you and appreciate more than anything the relationship over the years, so I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it myself.
And, you know, for me, seeing Navy, and like you and I have spoken about, I mean, this is my grandfather on my mom's side. I mean, this is his history being a part of the Navy in World War II, as well as my great-uncle Carmen. They both since passed, but, you know, we're willing to serve. And being at the Army-Navy game this year, I've watched the game for so many years, but had never physically been there. To see it was... I don't have words for it.
Right.
You know, people say pageantry and they say, you know, history, and they talk about the military and just truly being American, and you could say all these different things, but I can't find enough words in my heart to say that before the game even started, it was just great to see the cadets and the midshipmen and just see all of these men and women that give their hearts, their souls, their life to protecting. And then obviously on the field, you had something good happen as well.
Sure, yeah. You said it, people ask you all the time, what's that like? And it's really, you don't have words to describe it, you know, the feeling that you have being a part of that and just how special it is. And a lot of buzzwords, you know, you talk about the pageantry and just the walk-on and everything associated with it and what's going on around it. But a special thing to be a part of, and yeah, it was a good day for the Mids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, building off of that, and then you having obviously a connection to Oklahoma and getting that victory, to have those things happen at the end of last season, the Army-Navy victory for the Navy Midshipmen on top, and then from there to go to a bowl game and defeat Oklahoma, who's now in the SEC, that's not only good for Navy, it's good for the conference. Do you utilize those? I know it's last year, but can you look at your team this year and say, hey, we know what we did, we know what we can build on? Does that become a part of the message?
Yeah, I think you do. I think you get to guard yourself against what we did last year, and we're obviously we're a very different football team now than we were a year ago, and hopefully a better football team. But certainly, you know, a win like that, finishing things up the way that we did it was great momentum, you know, going into our off season. And I think, you know, we went from being a team a year ago that did all the right things, was hopeful, was wishful, to a team that's got some expectations and confidence about us now, and that's a good thing.
Blake Horvath, just his evolution and growth, just what you can say to who he is, who he's become on and off the field. Yeah,
exceptional. It's been fun to watch. You know, we're still truly a developmental program at the Naval Academy, and so when you see a guy like Blake, who's been through a lot, and really come into his own, I was telling somebody yesterday, I think that there's probably not a better fit and a better quarterback in the country to do, you know, what we're doing. I mean, he's a perfect fit for what we're doing offensively, and Coach Carnock's done a great job of kind of building some things around him and evolving the offense to his skill set. But he's a special player. He's a special young man, and you got a chance to spend some time with him. And, you know, you get that sense right away. But just a phenomenal captain for us, great leader. Hasn't changed a bit, you know, who he is, and all those things you really love about him. And just a calm, cool, collected, very cerebral, very talented, just does everything the right way. You know, and he's not only a great football player, but he's an exemplary midshipman, great student, had a 4.0, you know, through the course of his junior year. Played Division I football, have a 4.0 at the Naval Academy, is exceptional. And everything he does, he's just exceptional at.
And when you look at, like you said, being in a military academy, how does this dance for you? How should it go when it comes to the national rankings and things? Because we don't see the military academies get the respect that, in my opinion, that you've earned, right? Tim Pernetti, the Commissioner of the Americans, said, we're going to earn it on the field. We're going to show it on the field. It's not just about words. It's about actually doing it in deed. Well, Navy has done things in history, has done things this past season. So what can you say to, if you feel like things should change in the way that a military academy is viewed, and why you think maybe there is such a reluctance of putting you in the top 25 at times?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't worry about it a ton. You know, I think we've got a let our play speak for all that. So of course we want to be significant. We want to be relative. In the landscape of college football, we want a path to be able to go and compete in the playoff, and we have that in the American. It's a good football league, and it's only getting better. And so we do well in our conference. We'll get the recognition that we deserve.
Most memorable thing from Tim Pernetti's speech?
So many things you take away from that speech. I mean, I think he's a phenomenal leader for us. I think he fights for us. I think if you put that guy in a room with the commissioners from the Power Fours, and you lock that room, and he'd be the one to come out of there. I know he fights for us. He fights for our coaches. He fights for our players, and smart, innovative, thinks outside the box, pushes the envelope. I think he's a perfect commissioner for us.
When he spoke about opting in, the fact that the House settlement comes about, the American didn't have to opt in because they're outside of the quote-unquote power in the autonomy group. But with that opt-in, what does that look like for Navy and generating that, and how does that come about? Because once a conference opts in, it's on each of the institutions to go and find that money.
Yeah, well, our guys can't receive that money,
yeah.
Right? So it's not something that I worry about.
So does that just kind of, when the conference opts in, is it still like separate from like Navy's
Correct.
like, oh, you opted in, but we don't have to worry about it?
It doesn't change anything
Yeah.
for us, and that's great for our conference, obviously, but it doesn't change anything for us.
Yeah, I always found that interesting because, like you said, the guys can't accept anything with the midshipmen. But when you see the conference do something like this, and you have that uniqueness, the other part of it is the transfer portal. Yet we did see Army's starting running back after the Army-Navy game transfer out. I didn't think that could happen. So when you look at the Naval Academy, I mean, because there's a commitment, right, that goes far beyond football and education. So is there any concern of that being a dangerous precedent?
It's always a concern because we can lose players, and obviously we can't go in the portal and take players. And so we didn't have one player in the portal that played a snap for us last year. I think that speaks volumes to the type of player that we're recruiting, and what the value of the degree from the Naval Academy means, what the value of service means. These guys want to serve their country.
Yeah.
And we've got a unique brotherhood at our place, and I think it speaks volumes too about how we're doing things in our program. We haven't had guys leave. We've got a lot of good players. We have guys that could have put their name in the portal and gone, explored that, and made money. But they also understand the value of that degree, right? Now, NIL comes for us on the back end, right? Mm-hmm. It pays off for the rest of their lives, and our guys are smart enough to understand that.
Amen to that. Well, you get to put me on the hot seat for 2 questions, Coach. What do you have for me?
Yeah, best thing about your trip to Italy?
Being with my dad, climbing a mountain. First mountain I've ever climbed in my life. Didn't set out to do it, and went up this mountain, and it's got big steps in the beginning, and then it gets more narrow and harder to kind of navigate at times. And so they always say narrow is the path to heaven. It was to the Stations of the Cross. Okay. So I'm walking the Stations of the Cross in Maddaloni, in my dad's family's birthplace in Italy, walking up this mountain, taking Jesus' steps, and then seeing this narrow path. And while I'm doing it, on top of all those amazing things, butterflies came onto my path, would like kind of dance in front of me and then lead me up the mountain. Yeah. And then one would go away, another one would come in. Okay. And then I prayed at the top of the mountain. I spoke with God, as we always do, and I got really emotional because something that I've said to myself for years to get me through things actually came to fruition at the top of the mountain in a way that I can't even describe. So best part of my trip, being with my dad, and the fact that God was like, hey, we've always done this together, we're always going to do this together, and you're stronger than you think.
Awesome. Good. I'll have to consult you a little bit on that Italy trip next year.
Absolutely. What's your last question for me?
Besides Italy, right, what else did you do this summer that you really enjoyed? Assuming you took some time off.
Kind of. So normally when I take time off, I'm still working, but I did take a couple weeks down in Florida and got to be with my mom. We went down together, and that was really nice. Being with my other parents, I call them Papa Joe and Mary, my aunt and my uncle. Doing that and just having a good time with that. I also asked my big brother, his soon-to-be wife, she's in the military, and I said to her, just for me being curious, I was like, do aliens exist? Deadpan, straight face, she goes, yes. And I was like, what? And then she's like, no, that's a personal opinion. She's like, I don't have any military documents. I said, you can't approach a man and say yes that clearly.
Right.
My heart went into my stomach. So I was like,
Interesting.
I want to know, but I don't want to know. Yeah. So, no, it was nice to be with family and just joke around and have a good time. But, yeah, I mean, it's spending more time with my dog. I think that's been more purposeful because she loves the heck out of me, and I need to be – she looks at me like the best dad in the world, and sometimes I feel like the worst one. So trying to spend more time with her.
Yeah, good.
With that being said, Coach Newberry here, as always, on Wake Up Call. He is no stranger. And beyond everything else, like I said, Coach, it is so awesome and appreciative, and I'm thankful to God for the relationship that we have.
Me too, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Good to see you, too.